Have you ever promised yourself, this month, I'm finally going to stop overspending? And then 3 days later, you're staring at your credit card statement thinking, what's wrong with me?
I think that almost everyone has had a moment where they know what they should do with money, but they still do the opposite.
And that's where most people start beating themselves up. They think, well, I just must be bad with this money thing. I must not have enough discipline. I must just be wired this way.
But what if that's not actually true?
That's exactly what we're getting into today. Because changing your financial behavior is not as simple as just flipping a light switch. You don't just wake up one day and magically become, quote unquote, good with money.
There are stages to the change.
Exactly. And once you understand those stages, you can finally stop confusing progress with failure. Because sometimes the fact that you're noticing the behavior at all means you're already changing.
So today, we're breaking down the 6 stages of changing the behavior through the lens of money.
And by the end of this episode, you might realize you're not as stuck as you think you are. You might just be in an earlier stage of change. This is episode 197 of the Fi Guys podcast. Let's get into it. Most people think changing their financial lives should happen the moment they decide to change. They tell themselves, I'm going to stop overspending. I'm finally going to start budgeting. I'm going to pay off all of my debt. I'm going to start investing today. Or they'll say, I'm finally going to get serious this time. But then life happens. Stress hits, that Amazon account gets filled up, and your credit card gets swiped again. Your budgets, they get ignored, and the account balances, well, they just get avoided. And then that shame comes on, right? The big idea for this episode is one that's really simple. Financial change doesn't happen all at once. It happens in stages. And when people understand which stage they're in, they stop seeing every little mistake as failure, and they start seeing it as part of the larger process. So before we get into the 6 stages of change, I need to set the table for us with this pretty big idea. Most people don't struggle with money because they're dumb, because they're lazy, or because they're irresponsible. They struggle because money is extremely emotional. Money is tied to things like your stress, your security, your shame, identity, your childhood experiences, something no one ever talks about. Social pressures, maybe your marital status, fear, freedom, all of it. So when someone says, I just need to stop spending, what they're doing is they're oversimplifying a problem to one metric. They're not just trying to change one little thing. They're trying to change the pattern. All of it coexists together. So Dom, what do you think about when people think, I just need to change this one thing and it'll all be solved?
I think that the problem seems very simple, right? I spend too much money. I need to change one thing. I need to stop spending more money, right? But we're such emotional creatures. We're such emotional beings that, it's very easy to say that when you're in a place of comfort, right? It's very easy to say, I want to run a marathon when you're sitting on the couch. It's very easy to say, I need to stop spending more when you're at home and you're not in front of the newest product at Target or, your favorite company just dropped XYZ, right? It's a different scenario. We love to have our emotions take over as we do, as, these ads and these offers that these companies are putting in our way are, well, they're very enticing. I mean, they spend billions of dollars making sure that the ads are absolutely perfect for you to buy these things. So, I mean, we're up against a juggernaut here. So we live in a society where, it's encouraged to spend more, the consumerism, the drain it all, right? So it's very difficult, but yeah, no, I can definitely relate to the common man, the common woman. And I think that's something that, we've all been there one way or another. That, yeah, you look at the budget, you're like, where did it all go? Right? So I'm really excited to kind of maybe get a few tips and tricks today and see how I can help myself and, potentially be in a better financial situation by the end of today's episode. So I'm stoked. Hey, if I'm learning something, the viewer has to be learning something because I'm no different from you guys. So let's get right into it. Chris, you're our teacher today. Let's start it up. I'm excited.
Yeah, for sure. So let's get into it. The reason that we're doing this podcast today is we talk a lot about the philosophy of things, right? We talk about like, hey, this is the way to kind of maybe conceptualize it, but then you go and figure it out. And I want to get a bit more practical sometimes with some of our episodes and actually have like, hey, these are the 6 stages. That way you can see where I am in the stages and am I going to work through it. Before we get into that, though, I do want to make sure that we talk about what you just spoke about, Dom, where you were saying that money is emotional. Because I think most people think money behaviors are just math, they're just spreadsheets, but they're rarely just about the math. I would say it's very seldom that it's just about the math. Most financial habits are automatic before they even have the ability to be intentional. They just happen automatically because people often use money to cope, to avoid, to reward themselves, to feel in control of their lives. So, this is why financial education alone doesn't change behaviors. If we could just needed to read one book, watch one podcast, listen to one teacher teach us, and then be like, all right, cool, I'm just going to go and do that now. We wouldn't have any of the problems that we have in the world. It'd be like, hey, I need to work out more. Oh, cool. I just watched this YouTube video. Someone said I need to work out. I'm just going to go do that every single day consistently. It doesn't work that way. We have to change our behaviors. And knowing what to do is very different from being able to do that consistently. And that's the hardest part for us as human beings. That consistency is key. And many of us believe that if I decide I'm going to start being consistent today, well, then I'm just going to continue that moving forward. And the moment that life doesn't adapt to the way that we thought it was in our head, that we were going to be consistent, we were going to be the person we said we were going to be, just out of the blue, well, now we think, okay, I failed at this. I must not be able to do this. And then we quit long before we've even had a chance to see if it was successful or not. So I want to introduce the first stage of change. And remember, there are 6 stages. So as we're going through this, Dom, and to our listener, try to figure out, where am I in this stage pattern? And also know that you're going to be in these different stage patterns in different aspects of life. So today we're going to be applying this just to finances, but you might say, oh man, I can apply this to my fitness. I can apply this to being a better parent, to being a better spouse, to being a better student. Whatever it is, these are the stages you're going to go through. And the first stage is unconscious habituation. Habituation is a big word, but it just means that you're just automatically doing things. And this is where someone's going to say, I did it again. I didn't even realize it. This is the autopilot stage. I wasn't even conscious of doing things. This is going into the fridge in the middle of the night, eating and being like, oh man, I didn't even realize that I was here. You know, something I notice I do sometimes when I'm in the kitchen or on board, I'll just open up the fridge and like look and see what's inside of there.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm just sitting there with the fridge and the freezer open, just staring at stuff. And then eventually I come back to realization, like, what am I doing? I'm not even hungry. Like, what the hell is going on? And I shut the fridge. And then that is that first stage, right? That's unconscious habituation. And at this stage, the person is, for financial reasons, is repeatedly in financial behaviors without fully noticing it in the moment. Just like the moment you open the fridge, you have no idea that you got there. And they may feel the consequences later, but they don't catch the behavior while it's happening. You're on autopilot. You're not there at all. So someone says they want to save more money, but every stressful day turns into, all right, I'm just going to DoorDash something. I'm going to Amazon something. I'm going to swing by Target on the way home. Maybe if I did get this random subscription, my life would feel better. I probably need like 2 extra drinks because of how stressful my day is. Or they say that I deserve this spending because of how much I had to go through in order to get there. And then their credit card bill shows up and they think, I have no idea where my money went again. So what that might sound like to somebody, to our listeners maybe, is that I don't know where my money's going. I swear I didn't spend that much. I was doing fine. Then somehow I ended up in the exact same place. The main thing that I want us to take away from this is that this is not always a discipline problem. What it often is an awareness problem, because you can't change that which you don't notice. So, Dom, do you think that this is where a lot of people start to believe they're just bad with money when really they're just not built to be aware yet?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think awareness is one of the most difficult things to get to in life, in every area of your life. And it's not something that's easy to teach either. It's something that you have to like almost come to on your own, it feels like oftentimes. But you said something earlier that I thought was very interesting, and it led me to a different thought. Um, because it's like initially I was like, well, half the battle is knowing what you have to do, and then the other half is actually doing it. And I
Mhm.
actually think that's off. I think that knowing what to do is like 10% of the battle, and the other 90% is actually doing it. It's that consistency that you talked about. Because I mean, to be honest, and this is me, I think this, and I might be wrong for this, but I think most people know what they should do generally. Generally, maybe not like they should invest in this specific account and do this for their taxes. Maybe not that, but generally, people understand the simple concept of well, save more than more than you spend, right? Invest it, right? This isn't like it's not Mandarin, right? It's not like people have never heard of it before. Ironically, it's like Mandarin's one of the most popular languages of all time, but whatever. But I think it's one of those things that you know the doing constantly. And, when you have a plan, I mean, you've seen this so often in the work that you do, Chris. I mean, you create a plan for someone, like, great, thank you. Here's all this money I paid you because you're a genius. And this is a great plan. And then they come back, 6 months later. It's like, well, how was the plan? Oh, I threw it out. I didn't do it. I didn't do any of it. It's like, well, why? Why didn't you do the plan? It's like, well, as soon as the going gets tough, I fall back on my routines, on my habits, on my, emotional comforts. And since they're coming to you for, financial advice and guidance or whatnot, typically those comforts are, well, I'm gonna spend I'm gonna buy a new car. I need a new car, Chris. I'm gonna go out to eat. I need food. You don't want me to starve, right? And those questions, I think, the way they're framed are very dangerous. And I think we need to focus a lot more on the words we tell ourselves and the excuses we make for ourselves. I think too often we let those words and excuses fall to the wayside without analyzing them deeply. And I think that the more you can analyze the words you tell yourself, the more you can understand yourself and better propel yourself to not just financial success, but success in every area of your life, where you can start solving those underlying issues and problems in your world that, well, they're not like very obvious problems. If I crashed my car, it's very obvious, right? But if there's like this little thing that I do subconsciously that affects my entire life, well, I don't realize it. Well, that's a big problem. So I think just people need to really hone in on their decisions and really study what they do and why they do it in order to better change, their financial aspect. And I hope that, answers your question and a little and some. Um,
I was recently on a podcast, and at the end of the podcast, the interviewer asked me, "What's one thing that you could tell someone if they're getting started on their journey to become better with money?" And I thought about it for a while, and I said, "This sounds very easy, and it's the hardest thing. It's become conscious, like question." And then they're like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "I need you to start questioning yourself and get out of the autopilot behavior." And then he's like, "Oh." Like, because majority of what people do to the whole point of stage one is they don't even know it's a problem. They don't even question that they could do something different. Earlier, Dom, you were saying that the words we use, they have power. And I've been thinking about that a lot. We're actually going to have a podcast here in a few weeks as I continue doing the research on it, on the words that we say. And we're going to have a podcast all about the words, this is not working. This isn't working. And how just saying those words, again, it's a choice. It's a choice to believe that. But it's like that in every aspect of things. Oh, I can't do that. I've been having that a lot recently with the coaching client that I'm dealing with right now. And I say, this is what we need to do. And they're like, I can't do that. And I have to try to get them to be like, no, you choose not to do that. There are a lot of things you can't do. Anything that's outside the realm of physics, you can't do. I can't tell you, hey, jump off this building and flap your arms really hard and fly over there. You can say to me in that instance, I can't do that. But if I'm saying, hey, I need you to stop going to Starbucks every morning because right now it's just not in the budget, you say, I can't do that. No, you definitely can do that. But by you telling yourself, I can't, you're giving yourself an out. So we need to become conscious of these things. And when we do become conscious of these things, when we start to notice, that's when we're able to move into stage two. And stage, go ahead.
You know what? I'm so excited to get on to stage two. I just wanted to cut you off real quick. I hate to do it, but um, I just wanted to add something that I learned this week as well in regards to what you were saying about how words and how they have, a relation to your emotions and whatnot. I was watching this podcast with Tony Robbins and Alex Ramosi, and he was saying that the words that you tell yourself, they affect your emotional chemistry. So basically, the words you tell yourself about an experience become your experience.
Yeah.
And I was testing this out. I was in the garage and I was painting this project. I was painting this nightstand, and things weren't going great. Things were not going well. But I was telling myself, I'm like, man, this is great. It's Saturday. This is amazing. I mean, I've got basketball on later. I'm hanging out with my family later. This is amazing. And I could feel the energy changing in my body, in my life, and it really shifted the entire moment. And when I relate that back to the person who's like, because I have to have my Starbucks, right? In the morning when they are on their drive and they see the Starbucks and they drive past it, they have a choice, just like all of us, where I can either say, I hate Chris because he's stopping me from my Starbucks, right? Or you can say that, no, I'm bettering my financial situation and making decisions to better my life. And even right there, the pause that I said, I was at a crossroad myself. Well, should I say I'm making hard decisions or I'm just making decisions? Because whether you say it's a hard decision or just a decision, well, that makes a big difference too. Because remember, the words that we say, they really do matter. So if you come to a decision, you're like, and this is a hard decision, it's like, it's hard because you make it hard. So I just want to be clear that the words that you say have a very, very important aspect on how you feel and how your brain perceives things. It's like, no,
Yeah.
I'm great with money. I'm a great investor. I'm a great saver. You have to start telling yourself that because before you can be it, you have to believe it. And I want to go back to you, Chris. I'm excited for part two.
Before we even get to part two, because you had
Okay.
me trigger an emotion or a thought process in my brain too. I think that I've been doing some deeper studying of religions outside the Five Guys, outside of what I do here. And one thing that I kind of want to talk about is that we believe that reality happens outside of us, and we're just like a camera, passively absorbing everything that's happening. But in truth, we we're the screen. Like we are all of it simultaneously. So we're not the camera, we're the projector. Like whatever we're projecting is going to kind of come back to us, not in some like weird metaphysical, the secret type thing, but whatever we're looking for, we are going to find. So for me, when I wake up in the morning, sometimes early, and I tell myself, like, the first thought in my brain is, I'm so tired. I'm so tired. I'm so tired. And I'll go downstairs and I'm walking around. I'm so tired. I'm so tired. I'm so tired. And then I just feel worse and worse. So I've been trying this past week or these past few weeks is when I wake up and I'm like, I'm tired. So I'm like, no, I'm actually good. Like, I'm up. I'm awake. I feel fine. And by that, I start waking up more and I start feeling better. But too many of us will get stuck in these patterns of just saying whatever words we want to ourselves. Like to my client, Starbucks was not the issue. So please, if you hear that, you're like, and Chris just tells people to cut out Starbucks, like that isn't it. I just want to keep them protected. But when you use those words of this is really hard, the worst one is I can't, because now we're going to these two extremes, right? Of like I can and I can't. They're too binary. The world does not work that way. So we really just need to be cautious with these things. And when we're being cautious, that's what comes us to stage two, self-compassion. I know when people hear self-compassion, they're like, oh, this is woo-woo. I'm not here to feel bad about myself. I'm not here to like cry and talk about all of my traumas. And that's not what I'm saying either. You don't need to sit there and like feel bad forever. This is the part where you just say, I messed up, but I'm not going to shame myself into quitting, because that's what most people do. They don't have self-compassion. Self-compassion is not about just passively allowing you to do whatever behavior you want. Self-compassion is about not giving up because you messed up. This stage is one of the hardest stages, but one of the most, I mean, it's probably not harder than the first stage, but it is very difficult because we don't grow up in a culture. If you're listening to this podcast and you grow up in America or any like Western culture, you grow up in a society that is littered with shaming you into being better. And if you were just better, then you would be all good. But most people are just trying to shame themselves into better behavior. And if you think about most of us, that's not the way that we learn or grow. That's the way that we retract and don't try. So people might overspend and then say, like, I'm terrible with money. I'm never going to figure this out. I'm so stupid. I always ruin my progress. Self compassion doesn't mean that you're making excuses for what you do. It means you're being honest without attacking yourself. Because we all think, like, imagine yourself and when you were younger, maybe you were in a sport. If you messed up and your coach went up to you and started just screaming in your face about how stupid you are, is that going to be the coach that you're going to be with? Do you still play that sport? Do you even have any inkling to want to play that sport anymore if that was something you went through? Most people can realize, like, no, I wouldn't want to play that sport anymore if every time I messed up, I just got berated for hours and hours and hours. Yet that's what we do to ourselves. So an example of this might be you overspend on the weekend. Your old reaction might be, I blew it. I might as well just give up. But rather than that, our new reaction could be like, okay, this is compassion, right? I overspent. What happened? Well, I was tired. I was stressed. I was trying to reward myself for a long weekend. I was maybe avoiding something. Okay. I realize that. I'm going to absorb that. Next time, I'm going to try to be conscious of it to not do that again. I made a mistake, but I can learn from it. This behavior is information that I can use for myself. I don't need to hide from this. I don't need to feel bad about money. It's not the money's fault. I'm learning how to handle my money. Shame makes people hide from their money. Self compassion helps people to look at their money, to look at their behaviors around money. And looking at your money is where the change actually begins. And again, take what these teachings and apply it to literally any aspect of your life. And you'll see that it's the same exact principles. If we're not aware of it, if we're not willing to look at it from a place of self compassion, not a way of berating it, then we can never really truly move forward to step 3, 4, 5, or 6. So, Dom, why do you think so many people are so quick to moralize their money mistakes instead of just studying them?
I think studying them takes discipline, takes hard work, it takes awareness. I mean, like we talked about in the first stage, it does take a bit of awareness to study, what the problem is and realize it's, oh, there's a problem. Um, and like we talked about, awareness is one of the most difficult things you can get to. You never know, like, for example, right? Typically, when we're recording this podcast, I'm standing, right? I'll typically stand on one leg, actually, for some reason. I don't know why. I'll stand on one leg, right? Now, I do that out of habit. I do that because it's comfortable. But maybe a knee doctor who's been practicing knee doctor stuff. I don't know if you.
Orthopedics?
Oh, there we go. Yeah, yeah. You can tell my knees are fine. I don't go to the doctor very often. Yeah, the knee
My knees
doctor,
are
the
not.
orthopedic. Yeah, yeah, yeah. If he saw you like, oh, I would never stand on one leg because it would deteriorate that leg faster, and it's better to stand on two legs like God intended, right? You know, because he has more knowledge. He's knowledgeable about that. But me, I'm unaware. I didn't even know it was a problem. Right. Same thing with the money. If I'm not surrounded by money, if I'm not surrounded by the thought process of, well, I should do something a little bit better with my money. I want to grow my money. I'd like to retire one day and, leave a nice little nest egg and, give some money to charity, all that fun stuff. Right. If I'm not aware to be able to, to, to see these things, well, I don't even recognize that there's a problem. So when we talk about, you know, why don't people, you know, look at their problems and look at this and do this? It's like, well, some people don't wanna look. Sometimes it's a very conscious decision, and I get that. I've definitely been in a place myself earlier in life where it's like, "Dude, I don't even wanna check my account. I don't want to do it. And I'd have to use like mental tricks to check my account. Um, and it worked, right? Sometimes you have to use these like weird mental tricks. I remember the only mental trick that worked for me was, and this is gonna sound so silly. I always knew how much I made. I always knew how much I made, right? But how much I spent is a different story. So what I would do is I'd be like, all right, I'm gonna open up my bank account. Like, I spent $1 million. I must have spent so much money. If you check the account, it's negative $1 million right now. There's nothing. There's You owe $1 million, and I check the account. Obviously, I didn't spend $1 million, right? It would be a normal amount. Like, oh, cool. It's not $1 million down. This is great, right? So it's all about how you frame it, right? It's the perspective. It's like we talked about in the intro, the lens that you look through. And if you can find, and this goes for everything in life, I guess, kind of just learning as I go, but if you can find the lens that fits you best to operate most efficiently in each scenario, in each situation, you can make life not only easier, but it's almost like a fast track. It's like you're just moving so much better. I mean, imagine you wake up and you're like, "Ah, man, I woke up today. I have to pay bills. I have to go to work. This sucks." Versus like, wow, I woke up today. I'm not dead. This is great. I get another chance at life today, you know? And it's so important that you view your situation through the proper lens. That you're not stupid, that you're not foolish, you're not idiot, the biggest idiot in the world. No, no, no. You're learning, you know? You're growing. You're starting on this journey. Most people, well, they don't even start the journey. And some people, they start it maybe a little bit too late, but hey, it's better than not starting at all. So I just want to make sure that we're watching things through the right lens and we're trying our best to be aware. And this is why this podcast is so important and so interesting because if you don't dip your toes in different arenas, you won't know what's in that arena. And the more knowledge you have in different areas of life, the more aware you can be. And I think you'd be surprised at how much they all connect. Right? I would have never before this podcast, before we ever started recording, I would have never thought that, stoicism and psychology and emotion had so much to do with the number on my Bank of America app, right? I would have never thought that. But through trials and tribulations and learning and becoming more aware, I start to learn that wow, a lot of things are tied in together. So I think it. I, you know, number two was very important, but the first number one of being aware and everything, I think it's going to be one of those ones where it's like, man, it all goes back to step number one. It all leads back. So I'm excited to see what else we have in these episodes. I got
Yeah.
to get off my soapbox and let's kick it back to you, Chris.
No, you're exactly right. Like the journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. And like that becoming aware is really the first step. And not saying it's easy. It's like the hardest first step to do. And that's what we do. We all look at the world through our frame of reference, to which we were talking about earlier. And you can have a really bad frame of reference that is not, maybe the word bad and good isn't right, but like skillful or unskillful. Is this frame of reference skillful? Is it helping you or is it moving you towards your goals or away from your goals? And this is what I was talking about earlier, that we aren't the camera of reality. We are the projector. Like we are seeing what we are looking for. So we need to be super conscious of that. And again, to your other point, like realize that everything is connected. Like all of it, it's all connected. Everything you do is a vote in the life that you're going to live. And that is both liberating and terrifying, that every single thing matters. Because, to a point, like I remember when David Goggins, where he was in an interview and someone said, like, when do you stop? Like, when does it end? And he's like, it never ends. He said a few expletives in there, but like that was it. It's like, it never ends. Maybe for all of us, like I do guarantee one thing for every single person, you will die. And at that point, this journey ends. Like that part of the journey ends. From there, I don't know what's going to happen. No one really does. So we all know that we have a certain end date. Who knows if that's the end of the full journey, but it's the end of this part of the journey. So let's try to make sure that we go as hard as we can in the service of ourselves until we get there. And not only the service of ourselves, but the service of others. So if stage one was being completely unconscious and not even noticing, and then, you start to notice a little bit, right? After it happens. Stage 2 is not berating yourself and having a little bit of self-compassion. Stage 3 is observing in real time. Stage 3 is you're like, okay, I'm doing it right now, but I can see it happening. This is the thing where, again, back to my earlier analogy, I'm walking over and I'm opening up the fridge. And as I'm opening the fridge, I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Doesn't mean you're stopping it. Doesn't mean you're like, oh, I'm not going to do this anymore. But now you're beginning to notice it while it's happening. Because again, many of us, we think that if I say I'm not going to do this, I'm just never going to do it again. I'm never going to overspend. I'm never going to go out of my budget. I'm never going to use my credit card. And then when it's happening, or when it happened, you didn't notice. But at this point, you can start to see it like, uh-oh, I'm pulling my credit card out. It doesn't mean that we're going to stop it at this point. I mean, ideally, if you can, great. But this is the stage 3. You know that it's happening while it's happening because you see it. This stage is the most frustrating freaking stage because you see it. You're like, I know I'm doing it, but I'm still doing it. What's wrong with me? There must be a problem. And this can feel like the biggest form of failure, but it's actually huge, huge progress. Because in order even to get here, you had to go through 2 stages. Because now you're no longer unconscious. And now we can actually start to do the work. People start saying to themselves, or they start seeing that the behavior is happening while it's happening, then rather after it happened and be like, oh man, I walked away. I don't know what happened there. So let's give an example of this so our listeners can have a better understanding. Let's say you just walked into Costco, as I just did yesterday, to get 3 things. And you leave with over $220 worth of stuff, which I just did yesterday.
Yeah.
But this time, while it was happening, you noticed. I came for these 3 things, and now I'm buying all these things because I feel like I deserve a treat. You might still be buying the stuff. You might still, quote unquote, messed up, didn't follow the plan. I am a failure. Again, don't use those words, but you can feel it. But at least this time you saw the pattern. And that really matters in making change. So what this might sound like is, I know I'm about to overspend. I can feel myself avoiding my bank account. I notice I spent more. I notice that I spend more when I'm actually feeling stressed. Or I can feel the urge to buy something even though I know that I don't need it. Awareness before change can feel extremely uncomfortable. I almost guarantee it will feel extremely uncomfortable because you're watching yourself repeat old behaviors. But that doesn't mean that you're failing. It means the lights are finally turning on. It's like those old porch lights, right? In like the Pixar movie where they're like kind of zzz, 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 and they're like kind of turning on, trying to turning off. This is that stage. Awareness is like turning on the lights in a messy room, right? You walk in there, you turn it on, you're like, oh man, this is a shit show. So what do most people do when they see that shit show? They turn off the lights, they close the door, and they like hide. But the room is still messy. This is the way to turn on the lights, look at it, and start to see what you need to do to finally clean it up. Again, this is one of the most frustrating stages because you're watching yourself not move towards your goals, not act skillfully towards what you want to do. And just know that this is just a stage in the full progress. But when we make these binary statements of I'm going to do this or not do this, we lose the plot. We lose the ability that human beings don't just change like that. We are not like that. The most important thing that we need to learn, Dominic, you brought this up earlier, is that everything is connected. Every single behavior, every person, everything is connected in some way, shape, or form. So you can't just change one part of all of it just by saying, I'm going to do that. You have to change every part of it simultaneously. And that's why things take so long. So Dom, I'm sure that you've noticed that people sometimes get more frustrated when they first become aware of their money habits because now they can't pretend that they don't see them anymore.
Yeah. I mean, there's this quote that's it's similar to what we're talking about. It's from Carl Jung, and it's I think you've said it a few times
Yeah, it's
to
one of
where
my
it's
favorite
now,
quotes.
yep, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate, right? And there's a point in your life where, and I know this sounds, it's so I sometimes get imposter syndrome, right? Saying stuff like this. There'll be points in your life. It's like, dude, you look young, you are young. Come on, what are you talking about, right? But I think it's important that you can learn from everybody, whether it's a child, whether it's an old man, whether it's rich, poor, whatever, right? It's very important that you learn from everything and everybody. But there is definitely a point in your life where you wish you could go back to not being aware, where we've all had that, right? I wish I had that. That's how I feel with politics. I'm like, oh my god, I know too much. I don't want to know this much. This is too much for me. Um, but you have to know. No one else is going to know it for you, right? I can't rely on. It's like, oh, Chris knows it, so I don't need to know it. Like, well, Chris isn't always going to be there, right? And also, Chris is not like a database that I could just pull from. It's like, no, he's a human being. He deserves life, love, and the pursuit of freedom, right? But like you said, I think it was so interesting. Awareness is you flip on the switch and you see a messy room. And it's one of those things that I find so interesting because nobody wants that. Everybody thinks they want it. And then you get it. And it's like, oh man, this is worse than I thought. This is painful, right? And you said that change is, it sucks sometimes. It's painful. We don't really like to change. And I don't know why, Chris. Maybe you can explain this a little bit. Um, why are we always so averse to change? I don't understand. Even then, even when we know the change is good, right? Why are we so averse to it? Do you have any
Uh,
thoughts on that?
yeah, there's a few reasons. I don't. I'm not going to pretend to know all the reasons, but again,
Of
I
course.
often go back to evolutionary psychology and like understanding, like, okay, this is why this is bound to us evolutionarily. This is why it comes up across all time and space and culture that everyone struggles with the same thing. It's because it's evolutionarily bound. So there's two things. Number one, we are inherently lazy creatures. Like we came from a place where there was a caloric deficit. And in order to make any changes, in order to do anything, you have to burn calories. So we're inherently lazy. That's part of our build. So change means work. Change in order to change anything, you have to put in some work to do it. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that your brain is optimized to keep you alive, not to keep you happy. So your brain knows that right now, in all of this dysfunction, in this messy room that I know is over there, but I'm not going to look at it, all this stuff, I'm still alive. I'm alive right now. May not be happy, may not be thoughtful, may not love it, and I am alive. Over there, on the other side of the hill, I hear things are better. I was told that it's better. But I don't really know that. If I go over there, I might die. And then the game ends. So I'm just going to stay here in this place where I'm not very happy, where things are going wrong, where I'm unconscious, or maybe I am conscious and I just don't like it, or I'm shaming myself, whatever. At least I am alive. And that's why it's so hard to become that. And then we also have the hero's journey of people, not wanting to actually be the hero of themselves and hoping that somebody else is going to come and fix it for them. Because then I don't have to make any change. I don't have to exert any calories. I don't have to do anything. Someone else is going to come and do it for me.
Do you think, and this is something that we've mentioned so many times on other episodes, but do you think that anybody can be the hero of their own story? Or do you think there's limited amounts of heroes, there's limited amounts of teachers, or is it, am I being silly?
I don't think that's a silly question at all. Uh, I'll answer it this way.
Okay.
Everyone has the propensity. It's sad, but majority of people will never get there. And that's where I really come into this place of like, for me, of trying to be more compassionate, of being like, hey, everyone has their own journey. And we can only help those that want to be helped. And that's one of the hardest things in life to come to, right? Is to understand that you can only want it so much, but you can't want something for somebody else. So you can, and that's why I came to it. I think I've talked to you about it. Like where I've learned from studying the Buddha was sitting with palms open. Like I'm not here to preach. I'm not here to tell you what you should do or ought to do or shall do, but this is what I'm doing. This is the way it's working for me. This is the way it's not working for me. If you want to learn, I'm here for you, but I'm not here to push it down your throat that you must do this. It's hard. It
It's
really
very
is.
hard. It's one of it's the one problem I've struggled with for like the last 10 years. I swear I've been trying to like be better at that. Like I don't want to call it persuasion, but to infect people's minds with ideas because I know more. It's like it's a weird thing to say. And when I say infect someone's ideas, it's like I'm trying to inspire them to like go to the gym more, eat healthy. It's like, hey, check out these books. And it's the saddest part because I've had so many friends along the journey. I'm like, man, this book changed my life. I don't know if it'll change your life. I can't guarantee that, but I think it's worth a listen or a read or the XYZ. And I'll gift them the book like for free. Like I want you to have this. Like I care about you so much. And um just doesn't get absorbed. And I think too often we don't realize that we're gonna die and the choices that we make have a grand impact on the grand scheme of things. And life can be a lot better if we do certain things. And part of those things are mindset training and gratitude and, a little bit of stoicism sprinkled about. But like you said, I mean, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Yeah, and I think we need to also take a wider perspective in that just because something works for me really well, that does not mean it's gonna work for everyone else. Like, you can't take your subjective views of things. Remember our discussion we had on truth? You can't take your subjective views and then believe that it is an objective view,
Yeah.
which is extremely hard, right? Because 'Cause you're like, "Man, this works so well for me." Stoicism, Buddhism, like Taoism,
Yeah.
all of these things that I've learned for me internally have worked so well for me. And when I talk to my wife about it, she's like, "I don't that this
I don't get it at all.
I don't get it. This is not connected with me. Like, stop talking about it because it makes me uncomfortable, right?"
That's so funny.
And
Okay.
in my brain, it's like, "What do you mean? This is it. Like, this is it. It's everything." And she's
Yeah.
like, I don't wanna talk about philosophy. Let's just talk about this." I'm like, "But this is it." And then again, I need to step back on my practices, right? And be like, "Okay, she's on her journey and I'm on mine. And that's okay because now I can honor you for being on that journey so that I don't have to be on it. I get to be on my own little journey. We're all kind of experiencing this level of consciousness. And maybe it all ends when we've experienced all of it. Who knows? Like, who knows what it's all about? But again, we are not the camera. We're not the one who is seeing the world. We are projecting it into the world. So, whatever you choose to see, if I choose to see, hey, this person living this life that I don't agree with, you can honor them. Like, hey, thank you. Thank you for living that life. So I don't have to because I'm going to live this life. And if you want to come over to this side of the and live life closer to mine, whenever you're ready, or if you're ever ready, I'm here for you to help you. Again, palms open.
I think that's what's gonna be so interesting for me to watch you when you have kids is to teach, but to also be there for them to come to you when they want to learn. And I think, parenting is one of the greatest journeys a human can embark on. And so I'm so excited. I don't know if that sounds weird or not, but I'm so excited for like you to be a dad, just like see you how you teach and whatnot, because I draw a lot of knowledge from you, a lot of, experience from you. So it's definitely I can't have a kid first. I'll butcher it. I'm I'll butcher it. I'm gonna be like, palm, palms are open. I know Chris said something about that. It's like, dude, not physically. It's like kind of physically, but not really. It's like anyway, but no, it's a beautiful journey, and it's a beautiful thing to watch another person go on a journey. And I hope that today's episode, and we're not done yet. We're not even close, right? But I hope today's journey has really inspired you to just, you know, take the next step on your journey. Whether that's, opening your mind more or becoming more of yourself or knowing yourself a little bit better. I hope today's episode has helped you in some way, which honestly, it's helped me. So if it's helped me, it's got to help someone else. But I hope you guys are taking notes. And, if you do like the episode, feel free to give us a like or a thumbs up or a 5-star if you're watching on Spotify, and share it with someone that you care about. Because let's be honest, this journey is so much better when you go with someone. And there's no sadder journey than when you get to the finish line and nobody's there with you. So let's make sure that we share this great message of financial independence or FI. We got to send the FI message out. I bless you. That's pretty terrible to say. But yeah, let's get back into the episode, Chris. What number are we on now?
Yeah, we're on stage 4 right now. So just
Okay.
sort of as a quick reminder, stage 1 was all about unconscious habituation. It's just happening. We have no idea that it happened. And then afterwards, we're like, oh no, I looked at my bank account. And then stage 2 is self-compassion. Okay, it happened. I'm not going to harangue myself. I'm not going to accept the behavior. Well, you do accept the behavior, but that doesn't mean you condone the behavior. But you learn from the behavior. Step 3 is now we're beginning to observe in real time. This is where it's really frustrating because you're watching it happen, right? You're watching yourself do the thing you shouldn't do. And like a passive observer, you're like, no, don't go in there. It's like watching a scary movie, right? You're like, don't go in that room. They're in there. And they go in there and you're just watching it. You're like, God damn it. And that's you. You're watching yourself. You're just getting so frustrated. This is where stage 4 comes in. Is this next stage, right? This is interrupting the pattern. This is I caught myself before I went all the way. Like you're watching that scary movie, right? And they're about to open the door, and then you're able to speak in their ear. Hey, the bad guy's in there, and they're like, "Oh, okay," and they close the door, and they turn around and walk away, right?
Yeah.
This is where the person starts creating space between the urge and the action. Dr. Viktor Frankl, in A Man's Search for Meaning, he said one of the most profound things I've ever read, and that's between stimulus and response, there is a gap. In that gap, we get to choose how we respond. Too many people think I have urge, our action happens, therefore response happens. A must always equal B. There is no delineation. Person cuts me off in traffic, I freak out. There's nothing else that could happen. This is that moment, stage 4, where we're like, person cuts me off in traffic. I feel anger. Okay, maybe this person didn't see me. Maybe they have a kid in the car that's bleeding out and they're trying to get to the hospital. And in that case, I'm in their freaking way. And please get there as fast as you possibly can. This is that moment. And they may not be able to completely stop the behavior, but they can slow it down enough. And that pause, that moment of noticing is extremely powerful. Maybe the person still cuts you off and you're like, oh man, maybe no, I'm angry. And then you blow up. Maybe that happens, but that pause of like, maybe there's something else there. This is where the growth begins. And it's small, it's minuscule. It might be a moment, a blip of like, I had a portion where I could kind of get it. And through meditation, through practice, you can start to grow that bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger till you have a mile in between your urge and the action that you take. So as an example from a financial realm is you put $300 worth of stuff into your online cart, right? Or in Amazon, you got everything up in there. A great looking cart. This is going to be such a good box when it shows up, right?
That's funny. Yeah.
The old behavior is you press buy now. Like you press the button. The new behavior is, all right, I see there's all this stuff in here. I'm going to wait 24 hours. The next day, maybe you buy it. Maybe you buy all the stuff. Maybe you buy 6 of the things instead. Or maybe you realize I actually don't need any of this stuff. That is the pattern interruption. But too many of us, what do? We say, I'm never going to buy anything again. I'm going to go from 0 to 300. I'm going to do nothing. But this is where this is. We're only at stage 4, right? Some practical examples might be you use the 24-hour rule or the non-essential rule. If it's non-essential, I wait 24 hours. Maybe you delete saved credit cards from your shopping app. I've had to do that actually a few times where I've like legitimately taken my cards out. So if I need it, I need to pull my card out of the back of my wallet, put it in, and then buy it. I actually don't save any of my credit cards on my phone. I can't do it. I have to put it in there for like the automatic Google stuff. On Amazon, of course, I have it on there because, but everyone's a little bit different there. Maybe you set up automatic savings from payday checks. As soon as it comes in, I don't even get to see it. Money goes straight into my savings account. You set up weekly check-ins with your spouse or with yourself. At this time, I'm going to do this. I think the biggest thing you can do is unsubscribe from all of your marketing emails. Just take them all off. Turn off all notifications in general will probably help your life. What this might sound like to some people is, let me wait before I buy this. I'm going to pause and I'm going to check my account real fast to make sure that this is going to be okay. I don't need to decide right now. I can create a little less friction if I don't do this. And I'm not saying no forever. I'm just slowing down my decision buying process. And this is hard because we live in a world that's like buy now, buy now, buy now. How many times you've got to the self checkout thing, right? And it says like this deal only holds for the next 5 minutes. That's complete BS. Like we all know it, yet we still fall for it every time, right? Oh, there's only three items of this thing left. It's like no, there isn't. There's an infinite number of those things left. You know it's not true, yet you fall for it. And that's okay. That's this stage of realizing, like, okay, maybe I don't need it. And I guarantee you, I've done it. I've tried it many times where it's like, this is the last one. You got to buy it. I'm like, I'll get it tomorrow. And then the next day, it's like, this is the last one. A month later, we have three more of these things. You know, that's just the way that it works. And I get it because it works so well. That urgency works so well. It takes away your rational mind. And that's what we need to be in order to make change. So, stage four, this is where your systems begin to beat out your willpower. You're not trying to just become a superhuman, right? A superhuman would be able to, I'm going to start. This is what I'm doing right now. I'm going to change it right now. Done. You are not that. None of us are that. So we have to go through these stages. You're going to start building a system that gives your future self a fighting chance to make a different choice by being able to insert yourself between that stimulus and that response, be able to notice while it's happening. That doesn't mean every single time that you make the right choice, you make the skillful choice. But at least you're beginning to notice, you're beginning to see like, oh, it's happening. It's happening. It's happening. Can I change it? Sometimes you will, sometimes you won't. And that's okay. This stage takes a long time. Dom, what are some simple ways people can create friction between themselves and the financial habits that they're trying to break? Do you think of anything?
Yeah, I mean, it's like knowing your triggers, you know, it's knowing what's the step right before the step I don't wanna make. If I'm an alcoholic, right? If I'm an alcoholic, right? I know I shouldn't go to a bar, right? I go to the bar, the next step is I drink, right? And that's a good observation, right? There's also steps, well, what do I do before I go to the bar, right? I get off work. Why do I go to the bar? Well, it's one of my 3 places that I visit. I visit the gym, the bar, the home, sometimes the street after the bar. Um, Now this is an analogy. I just wanna make sure, Dom is not an alcoholic, but I think it's understanding, the choices right before you make the choice you don't wanna make. What leads you to that choice, right? It's like, "Oh, man, I have Chipotle. I go out to eat every day for lunch. It's such a big expense." It's like, "Okay, why do you go out to eat?" "Well, I didn't pack my lunch." "Why not?" It's like, "Nobody told me how to put peanut butter on a piece of bread." It's like, "Well, okay." There we go. So we're kinda walking it back a little bit, and I think we wanna make life so difficult, so complicated, and it is. It totally is. I'm not gonna say it's not, but it's also not as difficult as we think it is, but it is, right? It's a weird catch-22, but if we can stop and think, and that's hard enough. I know. I gotta think all the time. So different, right? But if we can stop and think and really backtrack, it's like, all right, what's leading us to this decision? Well, then we can really help ourselves going forward. And another great skill is, this is something that I'm working on in my own life, is okay, if I take this decision today, what will be the outcome? What will happen because of this decision today? If I take up smoking today, what is the right? What is the decision down the line that will happen? What is the outcome that'll happen down the line? Well, I'll probably spend $10 a day on cigarettes and I'll probably get cancer. Um, I push my wife and kids away, and no one will respect me. Some more people will respect me because I smoke like Robert De Niro, Goodfellas, because it looks cool. You know what I'm saying? But understanding the decisions and the consequences before you make them is super important. And we do this with certain things, but not everything. I'm gonna go get a Starbucks. It's inconsequential. No problem. It's a Starbucks. I drink it. It makes me feel happy. What's the issue? Right? Well, it's $8. hopefully. I don't know. Topics are so expensive. It could be like $20. I don't know. But, it's $20 less dollars you have to invest and go towards another project, right? But on the same time, it's not like this is a new concept. This is a very old world concept, right? Some of us have no morals, right? You understand this. So if I go and you kill someone, it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to go to prison for that, or they'll kill me for that, right? We understand the actions after our initial action, right? We understand that there are consequences to our action, but on a smaller scale, we tend to forget that. Oh man, it's 11:30 at night. I'm hungry. I'm gonna go in the fridge. We've all been there, and there's a sweet treat in there. We've all been there. Not calling anybody out. Um, but it's honestly, it's understanding it. Swear to you, I didn't plan this, but it's being aware, right? It's going back to that first step and being aware of what this will cause. And I'm gonna get off my soapbox again, but I think it's super important for us to be aware of how this will affect us down the road. And that's a skill that I'm trying to learn. And I'm hoping that, you guys try to learn as well, because it's definitely a great skill to have. Chris, on this journey and, learning as many skills as you can, how do you become a great predictor? I know the human experience, we've talked about this before, is the humans are really great at predicting things. We're really great at predicting things, but oftentimes we're really terrible at predicting things too. So how do you kind of, maybe in your own life, when you make a decision, how do you stop yourself? You take that pause and realize, like, okay, this is why am I doing this? Like, is there like a trick that you have that makes you stop for like the 1 second decision? It's like, all right, I'm going to pause real quick and like think about this decision, or do you just kind of, okay,
That's kind of the journey we're talking about right now, right?
yeah,
That's these 6 steps of
yeah,
of realizing it. There's so many things in my life, even currently, that are probably unconscious to me, that are completely habitual, and I have no idea. For as self aware as I think I am, I'm probably like majority, like 99% freaking automatic, like most likely, and like the 1% of me that is aware only knows that 1%. Like, and that's the humility also, to be like, I don't know what I don't know, and that's okay. As the knowledge of my as the ocean of my knowledge grows, so does the shore of my ignorance. And that's just part of it, right? So we just have to keep on trying to learn. That's what we're learning right now. For me, it all starts with asking myself why. Like, one thing that I think, and I've been told this, is like, one thing, Chris, that like is very special about you is that you're very logical. You're not emotional in many ways. And that is both a gift and a curse for me. The journey of being with my spouse for the past 10 years has been trying to become more emotional, trying to feel that, and not just be like Spock walking around logic, logic, logic. It works till it doesn't work. The balance, the Tao, the being a strong, good person, male or female, is being able to take both of these things, the masculine and the feminine energies, right? Masculine is logic, feminine is emotion. And I'm not saying that like that is the way that it works, like all men are this and all women are that. No, these are just two dualities. And the goal is to be able to find the middle way, to be able to combine both of these things into one. So it's not easy. But again, if you can say, like, okay, I don't see the world for what it is. Therefore, I don't know what I don't know. So I'm going to stay open, intellectually curious to learning and trying to grow. That allows you to question yourself. Because too many people, we think whatever I think, feel, believe must be true because it feels so relevant to me. It feels so true. Evolution has given us many, many things. Evolution has not given us the ability to feel truth. Yet so many people believe this feels true to me. That statement does not make sense. But we say it so many times that we just say, like, oh no, it feels true, therefore it is true. No, what feels true is what you've told yourself so many times that you don't even question it anymore. And I have many things in my life that I don't even question anymore. And that's something that I have to constantly push myself against, and be like, what if I was wrong? What if I was wrong and that my whole frame of reference of life is completely wrong? And then I go through these 6 steps that we're talking about now. There's been many times where I've been on hikes, been meditations, where I've came to a realization. And there's this scenes in Ted Lasso. There's a character named Roy Kent. He's my favorite character in the show because he is me. Where Roy, he comes to these realizations, right? And Roy sits there and he'll stop And he pauses and his eyes go all big and he's reconsidering like every way that he saw life through. And he sits there and he yells like, fuck. And he walks away because he just realized like everything that he thought was the right way was wrong. And I've had those moments where it's like, I thought I knew the way the world worked and it didn't at all. And rather than do what most people do is they double down and they're like, no, 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 my world, like the way that I saw it originally is the right way. No, you say that, oh, thank God I learned this in my 30s, then waiting till I was 90 or 100, or maybe never figuring out until my deathbed. Dom, I asked you that question for stage 4 and you gave the perfect answer, honestly. I'm not sure if you looked in the notes. Actually, I know you didn't because I told you to take them off today, but stage 5 is actually anticipating and choosing differently. Because so many people, again, the reason I talk in stage 4 about systems is because that's what we need to do. We need to be systematic. Too many people rely on their discipline. Your discipline is great and it's really fickle. So stage 5 is anticipating and choosing differently. This means I know this situation triggers me. So I'm going to plan ahead. For me, if you put sweets in my house, I will mess them up. Right? Like they're gone. They're done. Like I tell like my wife's like, hey, I really want to get Cocoa Pebbles and Captain Crunch. And I'm just like, don't do that. Because if you do it, the ramen bowl that I have is gigantic and I will fill the entire thing up and I will eat till my mouth is raw. Like it's so
Awesome.
bad. So yesterday when I was at the store, right? I was at Costco and I saw it. It's the big one. And I was like, I can get this family one and we'll be good for a while, you know? And I
Yeah.
had it and I was like, you know what? No, because I anticipated. I anticipated my triggers and I chose differently. So I put it back and I didn't bring that evil into my house.
That evil. It calls to me at night.
Yeah, it's like the ring, right? It's like the one ring that is just sitting there talking to me. But
Chris, fill your ball. That's so awesome.
but this stage 5, right? The anticipation and trying to avoid the triggers. This is when change moves from reaction to preparation. Instead of waiting until the temptation shows up, we actually plan ahead of time to avoid it. If I was a heroin addict, right, and like I overcame my addiction, struggle of a lifetime, right? You finally go over it. I'm not going to just buy a bunch of heroin, like keep the paraphernalia around my house. Like, you know, hey, there's a drawer just full of heroin. I'm just going to, but because I'm so strong in my discipline, I'm not even going to look at it. No, I'm going to get all that stuff as far away from me as I possibly can. And this is where people start to become honest about their patterns, right? It's not about shaming yourself. It's not about being a shameful person about like, oh, I messed up. It's about being strategic. So I think people might be able to see that, like, oh, stage 2, self-compassion makes sense because I can't get to stage 5 if I don't have the self-compassion to accept that this is happening and be willing to learn from it and try to grow, try to become more strategic in how I'm going to deal with the world. So again, take all these stages and apply it to everything. But let's apply this to a financial example. So let's say it's Friday night, right? And you know that on Friday night, you're going to overspend because you're exhausted from the week. You know this. This is your pattern. Worked Monday through Friday, Friday evening, I'm going to go so hard because of how hard I worked. Your old approach is I just need more discipline. I'm going to go out tonight on Friday. I'm just going to be really disciplined. I'm only going to have 2 drinks and I have water in between each one of them. And I'm going to get, you know, I'm going to pre-eat before I go there and it's going to be great. Maybe your new approach is Friday nights are really hard for me. So I'm going to go out and I'm going to plan to have some guilt-free spending money, some guilt-free fun money. I'm going to relax, but I'm going to decide what my number is before I get there. Maybe I leave my credit cards at home and just take cash. Or maybe you come to the conclusion of, you know, actually, I'm not even going to go out this Friday. I'm going to have my friends come over to my house. Or I'm going to go to their house rather than going and partying. There's so many things that we can do. There's an infinite number of paths we can choose to take rather than the one that we always do. A few more financial examples might be, you know, your vacations make you overspend. I'm guilty of it too. So you create a trip budget before you leave. You know that payday makes you feel rich. So you have to go automatically and spend it. So maybe you set up an automatic savings first where the money comes out of your account, goes to an investment account. So you get a smaller amount. You know, stress leads to impulse buying. So you create a different stress response rather than going and spending money. I'm going to go to the gym and lift some weights. You can stack these things. So what this might sound like is I know what my triggers are for me. I'm going to plan on this before it gets emotional. I'm going to make decisions today while I'm calm, then wait till I'm in the moment. Again, as human beings, we think that we are rational actors all the time. We are not. When our emotions take the better of us, we become just like everybody else. So don't sit there and say, when I get to that moment, my discipline muscle will kick in and I will become God. That's not going to happen. We don't rise to the level of our expectations. We fall to the level of our training. We fall to the level of our systems. So protect yourself because you might be able to, like for me with the cereal in the house, majority of the day, I could be good and be like, I'm not going to eat the cereal. But there's going to be a time, and I know it, where I'm going to get a phone call and something's going to stress me out. I'm going to get an email, something's going to stress me out. I'm going to feel bored or tired or sad. And you know what's right there? The Captain Crunch. And it's going to be so good and helpful. And I might have been able to beat Captain Crunch 99% of the time, but that 1% of the time is going to be the thing that's going to ruin me. And we can take these things. And yeah, Captain Crunch, not a big deal. If I eat a bowl of Captain Crunch, I'm not going to die. But if it's something like heroin or overspending my money, my hard earned life energy that I put in into buying some random stuff, and you make these decisions over and over and over again, you can see how it compounds. This is where budgeting becomes less about restriction and more about self-awareness. A good financial plan does not ignore your behaviors. It works with your behaviors. It understands them without shaming them, but being able to say, all right, these are my problems. These are my things that are not serving me, might be a better way of putting it. These are not skillful actions. How can I try to judo or jujitsu my way around it in order to use its momentum against it? So, Dom, do you think this is where budgeting becomes less about control and more about knowing yourself?
Yeah. I mean, 100%. One of the best things that you ever taught me, and I say best because it's the only thing I'm thinking of right now, but and there's so many things better. But one of the most impactful things, at least financially, that you have personally helped me with a lot is the idea that, you know, you create an account where you are okay with blowing that money, essentially. So I have a really big issue with spending money on myself. I never do it. I don't care if it's a candy bar. I don't care what it is. Right. I never ever spend any money on myself. I just don't do it. Right. And one of the things that you've taught me over the years is that, if you have an account, set aside, this is like, hey, this is Dom's like fun money. Or to me, it's like, this is my new tool. Right. And I've really enjoyed using that account. I've really enjoyed saving to put money into this account and building that discipline so that when I do find a new tool, um, I think last week I bought a new spray gun, right? Super exciting for me. Um, I pulled it from that account, right? It's because the systems that we put in place in order to help facilitate a more generous life, a more fulfilling life before, and I want a spray gun. Ah, ah, you don't need it though. It's like, just just roll it. It's fine. You don't need it. And it's true, right? But also I'm I'm not letting myself enjoy life. And I think for a lot of people, you're either one or the other. You're used to like, I'm saving. I save. It's what I do. I don't spend. I save. Like ordering a soda at a restaurant is the craziest thing to me. The craziest thing to me. I saw someone order 2 sodas once, and I still think about it. I'm like, "What do you mean? You got a lemonade and you got, like, a Sprite? Crazy, crazy." It wakes me up at night. I'm like, "That's insane." Like, I'll go to a restaurant, people are like, "What do you wanna do for appetizers?" I'm like, "What are you talking about? I never heard of that word. What I don't connect with that." Right? Um, so it's building the systems, right? It's building the systems that allow you to live a life that is enjoyable. And this whole episode is not about constrain decision making, punch you into the ground, make you financially successful. It's like no, it's like we're building. You need to be building a life that's worth living, and that's what financial independence. That's what personal finance should be and is all about. It's
Mhm.
designing a life that's worth living
For
And
you.
Chris, I mean, you're an attestament to it, right? You have used personal finance to live a life that you've chosen to live, right? You enjoy your life. And I think that's what's so inspiring and something we don't really talk about enough. Um, but to the question, yes. Whatever it was, yes.
Good.
But yeah, let's go for it.
No, no, that's really important that you bring those things up. Like, what's the reason for all of this? It's to live your best life and your best life, and that's where it comes back to knowing yourself. What is your best life? And that's going to be you. And what's important to me, like you saying, like, hey, I don't order appetizers. Yeah, neither did I, and now I do. Now I love going to restaurants. Being like, I want to try this and this. And like old me would have been like, that's so dumb. That's so financially irresponsible. But then again, if there's two extremes, right? Save all of my money. I spend all of my money in order to live a good life. It's not going to be at either one of these extremes. I say it a lot, but there is pathology on both sides. There is dysfunction. There is non-skillfulness on both sides. We need to be able to, the right should love that there's the left, and the left should love that there's the right. Because without them, they're both going to go into their own crazy little worlds. Only by coming together can we be like, all right, I understand where you're coming from. I understand where you're coming from. Let's try to find the middle way. Let's move on to stage 6. This is where it all comes together, right? Your old patterns begin to fade. And again, it's not an automatic. It's not like, okay, it's done. I flip the light switch. No, they begin to fade. And eventually it becomes, I don't even think the same way that I did anymore. I think a completely different way about things. This is where new behaviors start becoming normal to you. And those old habits, they may still show up sometimes, but they don't have the same amount of power that they used to. The person's no longer fighting the same battles every day. Maybe they fight that battle every so often. A financial example might be that someone who used to impulse spend now naturally pauses before they buy. Someone who used to regularly avoid looking at their bank account checks their checking account pretty much daily. Someone who used to spend every raise now automatically saves and invests a portion of it. Or maybe someone who used to panic about money now feels that they're more calm in control. Again, their normal has changed. They're not having to sit there and fight these battles. We only have so much energy, so much ability to fight. So rather than going and fighting all these battles, what if we just decide I'm going to fight these battles? I'm going to make this so I don't even have to fight them anymore. This might sound like to someone, I just don't shop like that anymore. Yeah, I check my money now because I want to know where I stand. I still enjoy spending, but I don't need to escape my life. Like I love my life, and money just helps facilitate it. Yeah, saving for me, that's my new normal now. This is far more than just changing your behaviors. It's changing your identity. Your identity as a human being has shifted, not just in this way, but in all ways. It's all connected. You are becoming a better version of yourself. I'm not saving those who naturally spend and they move towards saving is a better person. I could say the opposite too. If someone who just saves and now they're moving towards being able to spend, it's making them a better person. They're moving more towards the middle, more towards who they truly are. So you're no longer just trying to save money. You're becoming someone who can handle money with intention. You're becoming the best version of yourself. The goal was never to become perfect with money, despite what social media tells you, despite what your parents tell you, despite what you think in your head. The goal was become the kind of person who can be honest with their money, make intentional decisions, and recover quickly when life happens. To be able to have that optionality, to be able to be a good steward of your money, to be a good steward of your life. Because the money was never the goal. Money just helped facilitate the goal. And the goal is living the best life that you possibly can with money there to help protect you. So, Dom, before we go back through all the 6 stages one more time, what do you got?
And this has been a beautiful podcast, a really wonderful episode. Um, this might be one of my favorite episodes, actually. I think this is a very impactful episode. I'd love to go. I honestly, I'd love to just go right back into each one like
Cool.
we talked about.
So let's speed run with an example through all 6 stages, and maybe someone can see themselves in this. And I'm going to use the behavior of impulse spending when you're stressed, because I find that to be one of the most common things that I end up coaching with people is that like, I don't even know what happened, Chris. Like I came home, had a long day, blah, blah, blah. And then like my Amazon cart got filled and I pressed buy and now it's here. I don't know. I don't know. Right. So stage one, unconscious habituation, right? You spend whenever you feel stressed and you only realize it when the credit card bill comes later on. Next month, you're like, oh my God, how did this happen? This is most people's lives, right? Step two, self-compassion. You overspent, but instead of attacking yourself, saying, I'm stupid, I'm dumb, I'm never going to be good with this, you ask yourself, what was I feeling when I made that purchase? What was I trying to escape? What was I trying to do? Then there's step three, observing in real time. You notice yourself opening the Amazon cart after a long day of hard work. You may still shop, but now you at least see the pattern. Like, oh, here it is. I'm doing it. Don't stop it. But I mean, if you can't stop it, stop it. But the goal is not to stop it. The goal is just to see it's happening. Then stage four happens, interrupting the pattern. You put the items in your cart, but you're saying, I'm going to wait 24 hours before I buy this. Then there's stage five. You're anticipating you're choosing differently. You know you had a stressful day at work. You know your triggers. You know that you spend when you were triggered. So you plan a different response when the stress hits. Maybe you say, all right, I'm feeling stressed. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to go work out. I'm going to call my mom or my dad or my best friend and just talk. I'm going to pre-plan some fun money amount. Hey, each day that I work, that's $10 in that account to have fun with. I get $50 now on Friday to do whatever the hell I want with, to not even think about it, to not feel bad about it. Because I had a system, I had a plan in place. And then stage six, the pattern starts to fade. And you no longer have to automatically shop because you're stressed. You may feel the urge sometimes. That's still going to come up, but it's weaker and it's easier to manage. You know, I'm stressed. I'm going to go work out. I'm stressed. I'm the type of person that does blank. So the main takeaways from this podcast is that most people quit in the middle because they mistake awareness for failure. That's what I talked about in stage three, where it's so difficult because you see yourself making the mistake, right? You see it and you can't stop it. So you're like, I'm just a failure. I'm dumb. I'm stupid. I can't do this anymore. Most people quit there. You're only halfway through. You have to keep going. Second takeaway, shame does not create better money behaviors. Shame doesn't create better behaviors in general. If anyone watched the banger of a movie, K-pop Demon Hunters, did shame help anybody? No, it screwed up everything. Shame is one of the hardest emotions to deal with. In fact, shame usually avoids or creates avoidance. And if we're avoiding the problem, we're never actually fixing the problem. You can't fix the problem because you're not even looking at it. Takeaway number three, financial changes start with noticing, not with optimizing. Too many of us, do we go to people and say, hey, fix all these problems for me? It's like, okay, what are the problems? I don't know. Just fix them. We need to be able to notice within ourselves because no one is coming to save you. You have to be your own hero. Takeaway number four, you don't need more self-hatred. I think we live in a world with more than enough self-hatred. What you need is more self-awareness. There's a old story about Tenzin Gyatso. He's the current Dalai Lama. And he was here in America when his first tours, right? And he was sitting there and he was talking through his translator and giving his speech. And a woman came up afterward and said, like, how do you talk to yourself to be like to not be so mean to yourself, to stop hating yourself? And the Dalai Lama had talked to his translator. He's like, what does she mean? And they kept on going back and forth. And then Tenzin eventually came to the thought of like, wait, you hate yourself? Like you don't like yourself? Like you talk to yourself negatively? And he's like, yeah. And he goes, oh my God, America is so much worse than I thought. But I know what it's like in my head. And it's the guy in my head is he's a dick. And there are other cultures where you don't look at that. In fact, Tenzin said, well, what would your mom say to you? Like, is your mom kinder to you? Like channel the voice of your inner mother who loves you unconditionally. And then the woman broke down because that was even worse. And like, this is the water that we grew up in, right?
Yeah.
We think it's normal. But there's cultures around the world that can see themselves without self-hatred, but with self-awareness, with self-compassion. If you use that rather than the self-hatred, you can maybe move a lot farther, a lot more skillfully without all the pain. Takeaway number five, systems beat willpower every single time. The more you design your environments, the less you actually have to rely on your discipline alone. I think I'm a very disciplined person. And people say, like, Chris, you're so disciplined. It's like, because I don't make many choices. It's all kind of set up for me. When I have to be disciplined, it's like, all right, I have all the energy left. I didn't have to waste all that energy. It's like a skill counter, right? Like if you have 100 points and you're running through life, do I do this? Do I do this? No, everything's already set up. So when I get to the decision point of having to be disciplined, I have 100% of my bar left. Let's go for it. Takeaway number 6, and this is the final one. The goal was never to become perfect with money. The goal is not to become perfect with money. The goal is to become more honest, more aware, more intentional with your money so that you can actually make decisions. So I have an action step for our audience. This week, I want you to pick one financial behavior that you want to change. Not 5, not 10, not 11, just one. Maybe it's something like I'm impulsively spending. I avoid looking at my bank account. I eat out way too much. I'm not saving any of my money. I carry credit card debt. I'm not investing. I'm spending every time that I get a raise, I spend it immediately, or I'm avoiding money conversations with my spouse. And I want you to ask yourself, what stage am I in? Because if you are in stage 2 or 3, your job is not perfection yet. Your job is awareness. And awareness is not failure. Awareness is beginning to change. Maybe you might be at stage 1, but if you're at stage 1, you probably don't even know until I brought up like, oh, maybe these are the things to look at. And if that's the case, that's fine. Question yourself, start to become more aware. The action step of the week sounds very simple. Pick one behavior, identify the change, and identify what stage you're in. And be honest with yourself without beating yourself up. If you just start to notice your behaviors, that's huge progress. Most people never do that. If you're catching in real time, then you're making progress. If you're creating a pause, that is progress. Many people feel like change should be this dramatic shift where it's like, or read a book, right? You're like, this chapter ended, then this next chapter began, and he never looked back and he lived happily ever after. Sometimes change sounds like that, sure. But I noticed that majority of the time it's these tiny little decisions. I noticed this time. I noticed this time that I was doing this. And that might be the first step towards becoming the person that you want to be, not just with money, but the person you want to be in life. And that's a damn good place to start because financial independence is not just about the numbers. It's about becoming more aware, more intentional, and more in control of your life. So Dom, will you please close this out?
Absolutely. Well, guys, that is going to do it for our episode today. I really hope you got not just one thing, but maybe 10 things out of today's episode. Honestly, I feel like you could have. I'd love to see your notes. If you guys have any notes, feel free to drop them down in the comments. I'd love to chat all about them. I'm Dom. He's Chris. Make sure to share the episode with as many people as you want to change in this world because it's so much more fun going on this journey with someone else. But that being said, we're the Five Guys. We'll see you guys in the next one.
Later.
Peace.
This video podcast is sponsored by Monzon Wealth. The content in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. We do not endorse specific products or services. Past performance does not guarantee future results. The opinions expressed are those of the host and guests, not the podcast sponsor.
It is crucial to consult with a qualified financial advisor or professional who can provide advice tailored to your specific needs before making any financial decisions, investments, or taking any other actions. If you are seeking specified help, you can reach out to Chris at monzonwealth.com.